just watched this video about these people talking about how Sparta trained their people in the city, how the whole city was trained the same, and they was all in the same agile level or strength level and all that kind of stuff. And then I started thinking, they could make a reality show, or there's going to be. First, I thought there's probably going to be somebody going to try to live like that. They'll take a few people out and try to live like that for a while, but you're not going to get the reality of it because the people there, it was the time, and that's how they were doing it, and it was feudal. Countries were feudal, and now we try to be peaceful, but we got idiots for leaders. But anyway, I thought, well, they could probably make a reality show out of somebody trying to live like that. And then I thought, well, Trump was trying to build 10 new cities, but he was going to use everybody's taxes. Now, if he made, instead of building 10 new cities, but that would be so hard to get somebody to do that to live not like that, but maybe just in different modern time. I thought, if you had like a couple cities that were trying to live like that, but after a while, they can't live. I mean, you're going to grow up and people are going to leave. Kids aren't going to say, oh, I don't want to live like a Spartan, have a bronze spear, and that's all I have. Everybody else has Camaros. You got houses with swim pools. We got to swim in a crocodile-filled freaking river. They'd have to ship in crocodiles. But anyway, no, I'm just saying. But then I started thinking about, different cities. And I just, right before what made me pick up this phone to do this video, is I thought, all these people want to be socialists and communists. That would be a great experiment for them to realize how messed up they are, is just them getting together, building a city, have a reality show, watching socialism, communism, whatever isms, let them build their own city somewhere. They don't get any help from outside. It's like they're their own country. They don't get to secede, but they do their they have to collect all their taxes from themselves, and all their stuff has to come from them. Now, not saying that they can't purchase, like material and stuff, because if they was needing pipe, communist countries, world was already developed when communism came around, and socialism, although it is kind of a village type life where people live together and work together and they all support the village. And that's basically what Sparta was. I wouldn't call it communism. It's more like it would be more like a national cityism or whatever, statism. But I thought, how that, would that show everybody that communism is not, if it was a reality show and you could see, you didn't get the gender or the perspective of the people doing the movie. You had cameras all over the city that you could watch each person. It would be like an internet show instead of somebody saying, oh, you can only watch what our cameras pick up. There would be cameras all over the cities and microphones, and you could pick up any conversation. And you wouldn't want private would be private, and that's probably where a lot of meetings, people would make a lot of their decisions, would be in the areas you wouldn't have cameras or microphones. But if you could flash through the city, whatever spot, and then listen to the conversation, because people are going to probably gather around. But if there's enough microphones, enough cameras, even though they're talking, it wouldn't mean that somebody'd be listening. But, to have a socialist city and a communist city and let all those socialists and communists live in it, but we don't have to pay taxes to them. We don't have to support them. Let them just try to figure it out for themselves how messed up it is. And they would have a limit on growth. because we couldn't allow them to spread and say, oh, we got to take over your state. No, they'd have a limit on growth. It would just be can you sustain a city? I mean, they'd have to have police and everything else, because I don't know how big they, I just, that would be something that would probably get a lot of that would get international attention, because other countries would like to see just how they try to do communism. But I mean, at what point? It's usually communism. It's they don't start out 20 people and then they build. They're overpopulated, they're starving, and it's more like a martial law type thing. It's because it's a necessary in a disaster type environment where people were starving, like in Russia, where they were cannibalizing each other. And I think that's when they went to communism. I think China went to communism because of the opium epidemic, and I don't know if it was, I can't remember I mean, I wasn't around back then, but what I've read about it's kind of faded and vague. But I wonder if that would be worth watching, or because you'd have to use, if they tried to go capitalist, of course, that's, if they'd have to be a pure socialist, have like 2 cities or 3 cities, or even a pure capitalist city, because basically our country has socialism, has communism. I mean, if people living off assistance, complete government assistance, then that's basically communism. If their business, like like motor companies, are getting aid from government, that's basically almost a socialism, especially if the government's setting standards for what they have to do, like safety, fuel, and that's basically a socialist environment. So yeah, that might be different. I'm not saying I want socialists in this country. I'm not saying I want communism, but just to watch how they develop. All these people that want to be communists, want to be socialists, and they have to live within that city. That's their city. I mean, they can't. Well, I want to eat in another city. That's, you'd have to deduct points. You'd have to I don't know how. I'm gonna have to figure that out. I've already got a place where I've already got this thing where you have a 0 city, or you start out with a city where everybody's born, and then you work to, you have to, then there's other cities that are better. You got the basic city where you're born, then you go to this other city where you'd have to like, say, like, here is anybody's allowed. Here you have to pass tests, and then you just work your way up to where you have like the most elite city where you have to be, there's no crime. You commit crime. If you commit crimes, you drop back to wherever, whatever city it is. If you were made it up to a super city and you committed a crime, whatever crime it was, blue collar, white collar crime, then you automatically drop back down to maybe the last group, which could be almost a poverty-stricken group by the time, I was just thinking, if Earth was like that, where everybody was born in one place, and then you had to educate, you had to, I don't know if you had to be accepted, because then people would, that would be almost a prejudiced society, and they'd pick who they want. That'd be like, a team. But if you met the expectations, and you didn't, each city, each time you progressed, you'd have to stay at those standards. If you ever fell off the standards, you were automatically expelled to the city wherever it was that you were that the standards you didn't meet. You drop back to the city you go back. You don't have to go all the way back, but you go to a city where that standard was the acceptable standard, and then you have to go through everything else, you have to go through everything again to get back up to whatever city he was in. I was thinking, that would be one way to do something. But we're already a populated planet.